Welcome to this week's Brittany's Bites, and a very happy early Thanksgiving to you. And speaking of that holiday that mostly revolves around food and giving thanks, we're gonna make a Thanksgiving side. You probably already have your roast or your ham or your turkey figured out. So if you like another idea for a side, this one could fit the bill. It is a corn casserole. Many of us have probably had that. Maybe you call it a corn pudding, but this has a few extra ingredients to jazz it up a little bit that you could leave out if you'd like. But let's get started. Basically, it all comes together in one bowl, which is great, and it bakes at a temperature in the oven, 375, or you could do it on 350 that a lot of those other popular Thanksgiving sides bake at, so that's helpful as well if you're trying to do more than one thing at once. All right, so here in our bowl, we're gonna put some of the wet ingredients first and whisk it together to get it all smooth. I just have a stick, yes, an entire stick of butter in here that we're gonna put into the bowl, melted it down. That is, by the way, a tablespoon or half a cup. All right, we've got that together. Now I'm gonna keep this little spatula for myself, 2 eggs that I've taken the time to crack outside of my main bowl and then just kind of stirred up a little bit to get us going on combining all of these ingredients. So again, we've got 1 stick of butter, 2 eggs, and then, you know, this is not your healthy Thanksgiving dish, so if that's what you're hoping for, don't do this. We're gonna put in an entire little container, 8 ounces or 1 cup of sour cream. And I already thought to open this up earlier. I'm just afraid it's gonna go everywhere. There we go. Okay, you could also replace this with Greek yogurt. I do that in a lot of my dishes when it calls for sour cream. However, whoa, in this case, we're gonna go with the sour cream. It's Thanksgiving after all. We're here to celebrate with fattening food. Okay, I'm gonna whisk this up. Give me a moment to not splash it everywhere and get it smooth, and then we'll move on to our other ingredients. Okay, it's looking pretty smooth. I'm gonna switch out my utensils here and get ready to add in the other ingredients. So here comes the star of the show, right? We've got 1 can of super sweet corn. You can use whatever kind you like, but because I'm gonna be putting in a little bit of savory ingredients, I kinda wanted to do the dichotomy. I want savory and sweet. So I'm gonna put in a whole can of, I drain them out rather, of regular corn, but then you also want a can of the cream style corn. So I'm gonna put that in, make sure I get it all out of the can. Then this is where we sort of break a little bit from the standard corn casserole. This is probably where you would stop and mix it all together and pop it in the oven, and you'd come up with a great casserole, no doubt about it. But if you want to do something a little bit different, we're going to add in a little can of green chilies. Now I know you may not like spice. These are mild, so really they just get a hint of something else. But you could always leave these out and just go with the cheese that I'm gonna put in a moment. But let me first put in this little 4-ounce can of diced green chilies. Great. And then, well, you know what I need to do? I need to add in the cornbread mix. And you know, you've all seen these little blue boxes in the store, right? Oops, I forgot I already opened it up to make it easier for myself. I'm just gonna pour the entire container in here. There we go. Get it all over myself in the meantime. And at this stage, I think I'm gonna go ahead because I've added in this powder. I'm just gonna cheat, put some of this in here. All right, I'm gonna add in the spices. So, of course, I wanna add in a little salt and pepper. I don't want to put too much of this black pepper in, just a little bit. Some salt. Yes, these are not great measurements, I know. And then a little dash of cumin. I don't have the little like porous thing on top, so I'm just gonna go like that. Great. And then some garlic powder and some onion powder. All that, and a little of this. And then the last thing I'm gonna add is some shredded cheese. And this is a Mexican style cheese, sort of to play off the green chilies that we put in there. I'm gonna do about a cup. Each one of these bags is about 2 cups, so I'm just gonna go with about half. But, you know, if you wanna add more cheese, go ahead. Measure with love. Okay, we've got all the ingredients in a big bowl. Let me get it mixed up and then we'll transfer it into this baking dish. I definitely have this all mixed up now and ready to go. I just have a baking dish here that I have coated with nonstick cooking spray. We probably would be just fine given how much butter is in here, but always better to be safe than sorry. So I'm just gonna pull it over here and carefully try to pour it in. Oh. All right, going in great. And as I mentioned earlier, I do have the oven preheated to 375, but I've also made corn casseroles on 350, so I think you'd probably be fine either way. Just keep an eye on it, and you might have to obviously have it in a little bit longer if you keep it on 350. Let me put this over here. All right, I'm just gonna spread this out, pop this in the oven, get it going for about 40 to 50 minutes, and then it'll be done. I have one little thing I'm gonna do at the end, also optional, but stick around. The corn casserole is out of the oven and smelling great. I went ahead and just amped it up a little bit by putting on a few pads of butter. You can see it's sort of melting in because it's still nice and warm. I probably should let it cool off a bit more, but we've got to scoop it out and do one last step. And again, this step is optional, so I'll just sort of get a little bit on the side here. Oh, it's so nice and fluffy. Look at that. All right, I'm gonna put it here on the plate. And then what you can do, if you'd like, we sort of got the spice in there a little bit. Let's do the sweet and spicy. So you could just do regular honey, but you can amp it up with a little hot honey. Just drizzle it over, if I can get it out. There we go. And there we have our little spin on corn casserole. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll be back with more Brittany's Bites next week. But in the meantime, if you'd like to see this recipe all written out, you can go to WBIR.com.